So friends, again, summarizing the things, any project, if I have to put it in a very simple terms, is going to be directly impacted by the quality of the data that you are going to work with. And from this perspective, the quality of the data has to be measured. And that is one why we also call the methodology as CRISP-MLQ. Quality has to be maintained and evaluated at every step of your process that you are implementing to develop an end-to-end solution. Now, we have various challenges that we might encounter. We will have to validate all of those, which Mr. Barney has already explained in one of the examples that he was quoting. That is your finance domain. And also, you basically have to ensure that these errors are also documented. Okay, any transaction or any operation that you are doing as part of the project development, the details have to be documented, and this document would be the evidence, and it basically acts as of the communication medium, and I should also say as an evidence between the customer and the team. And this will also ensure that both the parties are on the same line, right? Same page. Now, I also want to add one more question to the kitty, Bernie. So when we talked about the various variables that we are collecting for the project, it has to be, of course, relevant, and your subject matter knowledge is basically going to be the crucial aspect here. Can you also throw some light with your experience on the project on what are internal variables and what are the external variables in your project perspective? How do you handle or how do you define them? And how, let me follow up on that question, and how you are going to basically define which of these variables are important. Right? In short, I'm talking about feature selection concepts.
Okay, sure, Shiva. Thank you. Thank you so much for asking that. So with respect to feature selection, number one, you need to have domain knowledge. And based on your domain knowledge, based on your research, whatever variables or features you feel are important for your next steps, you might want to collect that at word go. No question about collecting irrelevant data in the first place. That is exactly what we have done on our project. Second thing is, when we've actually started analyzing the data itself, while the variables were important, but data for certain features or variables was giving us a different picture. We have actually ended up using something called as information gain from decision tree. And a few of the variables such as marital status and whether that person has a mobile phone or not, landline or not, these kind of questions were there. These kind of variables also were there in the data set. And when we have looked at the information contained in these kind of variables, it was very less. It was showing us probably 1%, 0.8%, etc. And we have gone ahead with the logic that if we have any variable or feature whose information gain is less than 10%, we would simply ignore them, because including them in the model would have two disadvantages. One is it will increase your processing time. Number two, it will not add any value to your model. You're just making your model complicated by adding more and more features. So we had to remove that using information gain from decision tree. Having said this, we have a lot of other feature selection techniques. One is variable information plot from random forest. That is also something that we tried. But that and information gain from decision tree more or less have given us the same results. And then we have also looked at hypothesis testing to figure out which are the inputs which are relevant. And that also has luckily resulted in the similar kind of inference being drawn that these variables were unimportant, like marital status, possessing a phone or not, things of this kind. And these variables we have straight away striked off by clearly mentioning to the client that customer, while these variables are important from the domain perspective, these are not adding additional value when we included that in model building. Hence, we are ignoring that. The point here is we kept the customer continuously informed about every step that we were taking on the data because it is extremely pivotal. Tomorrow, it should not go as a surprise for the customer that, hey, I gave you these variables. I told that these are important from domain standpoint, but you have removed that. We don't want to get into those kind of wrong discussions with the client. So we constantly kept the client informed as part of our communication management.
Wonderful, wonderful. So communication management is going to be one of the crucial aspects to maintain good relations with your customers, friends. And that is also one of the reasons why I mentioned that everything that we are doing, every discussion point that is happening has to be documented in black and white. And this documentation should be shared with your client. And you also need to discuss these points so that both the parties are on the same page. Now, just to summarize what Mr. Barani has said with respect to the feature selection concepts. Ultimately, it is boiling down to the same point, friends. The variables that you're going to work with, the columns, the fields that you're going to basically take as a final set, has to replicate and give information of your business world. Now, customers probably they are not aware of a lot of these points. Right? They may not be coming from the statistical background or machine learning background. They're good with their business skills. So they feel that all the fields have to be used. And in a lot of scenarios, you probably will be getting a huge list of variables that customers are maintaining. Now, this is where your skill as a data scientist should come. You need to talk to your subject matter experts. If you are lacking that skill, you need to have discussion with the client teams and try and identify what are those data points that you are actually receiving. This is data description, basically, which basically maps the fields with the business conditions. And then you choose which features are basically ideal for the project from statistical subject matter, that is business or logical standpoint. And post that, you also use statistical concepts in order to ensure that from a quality of the data perspective, it contains the required information for you to generalize the business problem. So this is basically what the answer was basically signifying the point that Bunny was trying to communicate.